Growing up, I thought private eyes and detectives were the coolest. They were portrayed as these total badasses who could smoke a carton of cigarettes every day and solve crimes, and at the end of the runtime, they tied everything together in a nice bow, slap on some handcuffs, and call it a day. Naturally, I wanted to be a detective too, so I got some video games to live out that fantasy. I started with The Wolf Among Us, then LA Noire for that classic noir fantasy of the 1940s, and a crime game called Her Story. I didn't know much about the latter, but I heard it was cool, so I wanted to solve it. And I gave an honest attempt with Her Story before I got bored and uninstalled it. I wasn't making much progress in the case and just gave up out of frustration. Fast forward years later to this moment, and I figured it'd be fun to give it another shot, this time older and a little wiser, though only a smidge. So I booted up the game and was prepared to feel like those media depictions of detectives solving the case and tying a nice narrative bow for its conclusion. And oh boy, that's not what happened at all. As the credits rolled, I was thinking two thoughts. One, that was interesting, I want to share this with people, and two, I don't know how to feel right now. I want to talk about how I got to this point, giving the best general explanation of the game as I can, so if it sounds like your thing, you can go from there. I'll be avoiding spoilers like the plague with one exception, a real whoops, I forgot my mask in the car moment. I'll be using footage for the game to talk about this, which can contain visual spoilers. So if you want to watch this video podcast style by just listening to the audio, you have my blessing. My name here is Pollymacho, and I would like to welcome you to this elusive Macho recommendation. Her Story has a minimalist approach to its storytelling. Your character won't be leaving this room. It opens on an old computer as you gaze into the screen. Your goal is to observe. You're viewing the story of Hannah Smith, a woman questioned by the police in the span of 7 interviews. Due to some technical difficulties, you can only view clips of the interviews, minutes or even seconds of understanding at a time. With a desire for knowledge and a search bar, your job is to piece together her story. Good luck. The biggest draw of Her Story is how it's a tale that embraces the fact it's a video game. If you look at something like LA Noire, while it is a video game, the story could be transferred to another medium. Cole Phelps may be the player character, but the story of LA Noire is conveyed through cutscenes where we watch things happen. There is gameplay, but those feel like interludes before resuming the cutscenes showing us the story. As I said in my Firewatch recommendation, every video game has its own creative goals, and there's no objective correct way to approach this. A fully interactive video game with a linear movie-structured story could be detrimental to that experience. But this embracing of a non-linear structure is what makes this particular game so engaging. There are no other characters to focus on and have a rapport with. You're observing a woman reminiscing on the past. That's it. You'll have to type something in the search bar to view clips. This could be a phrase or just a single word, and what will follow are clips using that particular thing you typed, but it's incomplete. You could get a clip from interview 1, then immediately watch one from the 4th interview. You could solve the mystery with the right keywords in half an hour, or it could take a couple before you get a revelation. That willingness to let players figure this story out at their own pace is something I haven't seen before in video game storytelling. We are creating our own flow of the story in this non-linear fashion, weaving clues and information, forming a unique perspective for the player. After reaching a certain amount of videos watched, you'll get a chat box asking if you've seen enough. This allows you to end the game right at that moment. The fact you can choose when you've seen enough is remarkable. You get to end the game on your terms. As for my playthrough, once I encountered the box after about 3 hours, I decided to keep going, hoping for some narrative revelation that made it all click together. But before I get to that moment, let's discuss the game's presentation. Her Story's minimalist approach is conveyed through its look as well. As your character looks through the archived clips, you will hear clicks and clattering of keys when searching for terms, helping you build up this satisfying rhythm as you play. The fact you're using a screen for the entire game also has this cool meta blending, where using the same screen, you can play with the options for the actual game itself, such as turning on subtitles and removing the aliasing for a clear view, tweaking how you play the game, but also how your character sees the screen as well. That's neat. Tutorials are shown as text files you can view on the desktop, and your progress through the database is seen as a program, showing in green what's already been watched and yellow for the clips you've recently viewed. The game is presented as something that both your character and yourself are in control of, creating this engaging immersion as you piece together this story. While this game is immersive and interesting for some parts, this is definitely a niche pick. If viewing clips to piece together a story doesn't sound interesting, or if you want a linear experience, Her Story may not be the game for you. The gameplay is casual, so there are no mechanical demands for satisfying and hard to master gameplay loops. And if you're like me, there's going to be a point where the keywords will dry up and you'll reach a dead end, trying any word you can think of to progress, only showing no clips found, which is frustrating. The game does have a feature when you beat it for the first time, allowing you to view more clips with a command, and because that exists, I've got a tip for you. Every video has a user tag that says blank. If you've reached a dead end and really want to know what happens, but don't want to use a guide, type blank into the search bar and manually change the user tags to something different for every video you view. Then click the search again, still using blank, and the next batch of videos with that keyword will show up. You can use that whenever you want, but I recommend trying your best to discover the story organically, then using that option as a last resort, creating a linear structure to understand it better. I only mention this because the game seems to encourage this by the way it's set up. And now we're reaching that point in the video. It's about time to discuss that spoiler I mentioned earlier. Because of how the game is structured, I have no idea what point you'll view it at. If you want to go in blind, feel free to leave now, and I'll see you later. But for those who have already played it or want to know what happens, good to have you here. Let's begin. So as you progress in Her Story, learning the narrative of Hannah Smith and the murder of her husband Simon, you will eventually come across a discovery. That being, you haven't been just watching Hannah. You discover you've been watching another person through some of the interviews, that being Hannah's twin sister, Eve. But her upbringing is pretty tragic, more than just a shocking reveal. It turns out Eve was separated from Hannah at birth and raised by a different mother. When she eventually passed away, instead of going through child services, she tracked down her birth sister and the two lived in the same house. Eve would hide in the attic and Hannah would live like normal. The two would swap places for different events. If one was sick, the other would take her place. Another would take the exam if they were better at that subject, and one would ask boys out while the other waited at home. This swapping was a secret only the two held. Even Hannah's parents never found out. It was this codependent relationship where the two would create this person for the world. It reached a point where if one of them had a physical injury, they would replicate it for the other, keeping a detailed diary so the stories would line up the next day. And this had gone on until they met Simon. Hannah had decided they would dissolve this partnership and be their own people. At this point, the two mirrors of each other had done something once unthinkable. They became their own individuals. Eventually meeting back up years later, but time had affected them differently. Their lives had taken different trajectories. There's more to the mystery and the outcome, but this double life is what got me thinking. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to live your youth pretending to be someone, all to present a narrative of who you are. And I felt awful for Eve, like having this particular connection with someone who was brought into the world simultaneously as you, only for them to decide to live their own lives out of nowhere. I was looking to solve a mystery and feel like a cool detective, but what I found were two sisters, one who committed a crime and disappeared from the face of the earth, the other lamenting about the past and how she never felt like she genuinely existed as herself. I viewed every clip in the game, hoping to get a concrete explanation of what I should feel, but as I saw the credits, all it did was open up more questions, in part because the creator has refused to comment on how to interpret this work. And the fact a computer game got me suspending my disbelief to fully process what to feel shows it's something special. For the time I played, I was invested in the story. Much like a piece of good fiction, it felt real to me. My interest and curiosity were piqued. I wanted to see it through, and even if I didn't get a straight answer of what it all means, I appreciate it anyway. There's this desire for things to be explained on the internet, a rational telling of events, and an objective way of seeing them, grounding the experience by having someone intelligent figure it out and share it. I do enjoy this type of content myself every once in a while, but when things are ambiguous, there's this knee-jerk reaction that it's because you're not smart enough to get it. But I don't think that's true. I think some works are just so ambiguous and complicated that they can't be articulated easily, and it's more about how it made you feel rather than what it means. Maybe it's what you got out of it and not what it's trying to say that's most important. Or you sum it up as, well, shit, I don't know. Her Story is one of those for me, and if you played it, I'd love to know your thoughts on it. It doesn't take a detective to know my name here is Pollymacho, and thanks a whole bunch for watching. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with future Macho recommendations and other videos I make. Thanks again, and have a great day.